Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm Joe, and I'm talking with Anita Howard, who's one of the contributors to the Summer Solstice issue of Good Day News magazine. I will not reveal what she's written about, but I will say this much. It's very personal, it's beautiful, and you know, I'm pretty confident that everybody will relate to your personal journey. So thank you for sharing that in the magazine.
Thank you.
And yeah, so Anita, how are you? How have you been feeling?
I'm very well, really. I think it's been an unforgettable time for everyone, and it's probably we shouldn't forget that it's still going on, although we're at a milestone day at the moment. So I think it's going to be a time that nobody will forget, really, as I said.
So you're a teacher, Anita. Yeah.
Yes.
And what class or what age group children do you teach and what do you teach?
Well, I've taught most age groups from 13 up at the moment. I'm teaching in the further education sector,
Mm.
which would involve most students being over 18, and there's no upper age limit then, obviously. So I would be mainly a teacher of adults, but in the past I taught 13 to 18-year-olds as well.
Yeah, and it's English and is it Spanish or
The subjects I'm qualified to teach would be English and Spanish,
yeah.
and that opens up a lot of other humanities subjects and
Mm,
languages subjects as well.
mm,
So
mm.
currently I'm teaching a lot of communications, for example, for QQI.
During the last 3 months, were you doing classes, facilitating classes online?
I was facilitating tutorials online and um, keeping classes going with their assignments. At the time the shutdown happened, it was by some good fortune the day after I'd finished teaching the content of my classes. So
Yeah.
at that point, it was a case of reinforcing what had already
Mm,
been taught. I wasn't in the position of actually having to teach anything new.
okay.
That is a challenge that could be coming, but I'd be happy to embrace that
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. And how has it been for you to be online? Are you online for most part of your day in front of a computer screen? How has it been?
Well, I try not to be online all day, but certainly teaching and work involve that and the requirements of that.
Mm,
And so I do spend a lot of my time in front of the screen, but I try to place work hours on that and have a cut-off point
oh
every
yeah.
day so that I'm
Mm.
not working until the small hours of the morning, which wouldn't be a favour to me or anyone else
Yes,
who
of
was going to
course.
be
Yes.
impacted by the work. So,
Yes, yes. So what have you discovered about yourself?
well,
Something
I think
new?
um, I think really the life of being of having to live at a certain remove was maybe something I was well prepared for in that I'd be quite a quiet and withdrawn person in a lot of ways. So I would have tended to live a lot within myself. But of course, too much of that is not good either. So you quickly find out the importance of the human connection, the connection with family and the connection with friends, and the need to keep that up. And of course, that involves a lot of screen time as well.
Mm.
I set up a Zoom call, for example, with with my father to communicate with family members in Canada and in the UK. And
Oh,
that was a very new experience for him and for them. So that would have been one memorable part of the lockdown. It's
mm,
just really the knowledge of the need to keep up connection in whatever way you can.
yeah, yeah. What do you want to take forward from all of this learning? What is the thing you're going to remember?
I think really it's the importance of resilience,
Yes.
and the importance of understanding that everyone is impacted by the same things that you're going through, but they're not necessarily impacted in the same way. They won't show it in the same way. So that if somebody is communicating in an unusual way, or if you yourself find that something is weighing more heavily on your mind than it should be, you have to be able to observe your thoughts a bit better. You have to be able to, I suppose, make room for other people to be upset as well as yourself, and make sure that you have a higher level of tolerance for everyone's reactions, and the ability to step back. So I would see that being able to step back from the screen and have some time with your own thoughts is an important thing as well from this time, and I think that will carry on in the lives of people who've experienced the lockdown.
These are things we all know, right? We all knew this.
Yes.
And somehow forget, and it needed something like this to take place in our collective life for us to be reminded of the value of all of this. And so what do you think you're going to do to remember all of this, especially or what do you think other people should do to remember that we've got to continue being kind towards each other? How do you remember that?
Well, one thing I've noticed is that probably one of the biggest impacts of this will be psychological, in that we are talking about the possibility of the second wave of the coronavirus, but there's also the waves of the impact that the coronavirus will have, which we're seeing now on the economy, and we will see it in psychological terms, the effect that it's had. We talk a lot about the impact of bereavement and loss, and when you think about the circumstances in which people have had to face that during this time, the huge psychological importance of funerals and rituals, which are important in Ireland, and they're important in every society. And at the moment, certainly in the past couple of months, they had to be very heavily curtailed. People could no longer have removals, wakes. There was a limit on the number of people who could attend the funeral mass. I remember the sad death of Abby McKeough, who was only 12 and was known to a lot of people. And the funeral mass had to take place with only a very small number of people in a very large church. But I do remember watching the video of her being taken to her resting place, and at all the strategic points, the funeral route was lined by people who had been important to her, from her classmates to members of the emergency services. And when you think of the planning and coordination that had gone into that, the show of sympathy and support and love really was there, but it was just there in a different way. And I think it'll probably involve a different use of what is already there. In that we had long tried and well used rituals of how to support the bereaved and how to support people who are going through difficult times, but we're now having to develop new rituals to go with the times. So I think rather than bring in anything that is as dramatically new as the safety precautions have to be, I think it'll probably be a question of reforming what we have already and the instincts that are already there.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. That's even very hopeful of us, right? It means that we're adaptive, and we can, if we apply ourselves for the right reasons, or not right, but for the greater good, then a lot is possible.
Yes, I think so.
That's yeah, that's such a nice way to feel at the end of the day. So tell us before we close and say bye to each other and get on with our day. Why do you like the Good Day News magazine?
Well, I like the idea of a magazine that's based on the idea of on the sense of positivity, of gratitude, and I suppose counting your blessings, because it's that's a mindset that we need in these times, and I think we have always needed it.
Yes.
But that this is a time when we particularly need to focus on it, because I suppose COVID-19 is an invisible enemy, but focusing on the positive and drawing on everything that we in our various creeds believe is the force of good in life, and that is the invisible friend that can be put against said enemy. Because if we can draw on positive thinking and determination and resilience, it's not going to work on its own. We need the safety and health precautions to go with it, and restriction and whatever restrictions are appropriate for the time. But we also need that mindset of determination, and the proverb in Ireland that everyone grows in the shelter of each other. That the idea of mettle, the community. It's important that we hold on to that positive idea and keep working together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And so I hope that everybody will order their magazine. And this is Anita Howard, and she's an incredible lady, and she is one of our contributors for the summer solstice issue. So thank you, and thank you for the chat, and have a lovely day, Anita.
Very much, one incredible lady to another.